Alright, what's up Dragon Brood? It's about that time so we can talk about cards that have been overperforming in this video for Lorwyn Eclipsed. Now, we're going to give the usual caveats that you should probably get information from multiple sources. You shouldn't base all your decisions on just one video. And honestly, things can change in the future because the metagame moves fast. However, let's talk about some cards from Lorwyn Eclipsed that have actually been a little better than expected, and you're probably pretty safe crafting these. Alright, obviously we have the new shocklands, or the old shocklands that have just been reprinted, but you'll know what I'm saying. We have the shocklands that are available, and honestly, yes, go ahead and craft them. Yes, I know they're less exciting because you'd rather have cards that do something, but if you want to play competitive decks and you want to play them where they function, well, you're going to need these. It's not really a question. And the good thing is they're going to be standard legal for 3 years, and you can just use them in a bunch of different decks. So of all the cards you craft, these are going to be really useful the longest because they're not really going to not be part of some deck. Now, I will say this, mostly just do the ones of the colors you play the most, and that's probably where you want to start. You don't need to just go in and craft all of them just because. Like, for instance, if you just aren't going to play a lot of red-blue, then maybe don't craft Steam Vents, right? But maybe you're playing, I don't know, green-white, and you'll want to go ahead and craft that one instead. Just think about that. Otherwise, yes, craft these, move on, good choice. Also, we make a lot of cool merch, so check out the description down below if you want to buy something cool for yourself and support the channel. But next up, we have Hexquel, and this card's actually pretty cool. It's a goblin that's a 2-mana 2/2, and it got a lot of hype in the preseason, but truthfully, the card is just good. I mean, even in multiples, it's even better, because your opponent has to pay 2 life for each thing they target. If you're doing any type of hyper-aggressive goblins, or something that's like sacrificing stuff and nickel and diming your opponent, 2 to 4 extra damage can actually be a big deal. Now, is it going to show up in a ton of decks? Don't really know. I think right now, if nothing else, if the control decks end up still being a thing, then you'll probably end up seeing this a lot more in the sideboards of best of 3. And best of 1, do you need it as much? I think that's a question to be asked, but it is still really good. And it's kind of been at what we expected. Now, it was a slight bit overhyped, don't get me wrong, but it actually has performed pretty well so far when we've seen it, and people are still picking these up right now. Now, I will be fully transparent here and say Selfless Safewright almost didn't make this list. However, I went back and looked and saw a couple other creators playing it. I got some excitement from people at local stores on pre-release, and honestly, it performed pretty well for me too. So I went ahead and let it make the list, mostly because even if you're just playing something with green creature-wise, and you want a reasonable card that's a defense against sweepers, this card's it. Now, granted, if you're playing something that has a bunch of different creature types, this is going to be a lot less exciting, because you have to choose a creature, and then those gain indestructible and hexproof. However, sometimes you just want to save 1 or 2 things, and this can do that. And the fact that it has Convoke and Flash is also super good, and it's a 4-power creature. I think this is one of those cards that, again, I think is really good in a sideboard of best of 3, but even playing 2 of these in best of 1, I think is totally reasonable. So yeah, check it out if you're looking for some cool new defense against sweepers. This could be the answer for you, especially in theme decks where we're talking about like Kithkin and Elves and things like that that are just green based. So yeah, I'd give this one a go. Speaking of green cards that look like elves, well, this one happens to be a 4-mana 6/6, and it lets you draw a card whenever you cast a creature spell. We're talking about Champion of the Perfect. And let me say this about the card that surprised me is it's for any creature. So just as long as you have an elf or enough elves in the deck to make it worth playing, you can get the value off this card from just casting a pile of other stuff. This card's super good. A 4-mana 6/6, it kind of gives you pseudo protection against sweepers, because when it dies, you get the thing back, and you get to draw cards while it sits out there, so you don't have to worry about overcommitting as much. This card's really good. Even better when it's, you know, combined with other things that are also letting you draw cards, so now you're double dipping on each creature you play. If it had any real abilities as far as like evasive abilities, menace, trample, whatever, that would be pretty sweet, but then it'd just be too good. Yeah, this card, of all the champions we saw during early access and even, you know, light play over the weekend, this is the one that's actually performed the best so far. Not saying that the others are unplayable, but this is the only one that makes our list that feels safest if you're thinking about it. Again, full transparency, this is the one I hate to have on the list, because I think somewhere deep down inside I wanted this card to be worse than it is. But let me tell you, I put it in a couple of different decks, and it overperformed each time. I played it in Mono Red Elementals, I played it in the Teamer Battle Crier deck, and it was just good. I mean, I saw other people play with it. It was good. The one thing I will say about this, though, be aware of this. It's going to be somewhat metagame dependent, right? Because if there ends up being a bunch of, I don't know, monocolored decks for some reason, then this will be a lot less exciting. Your opponent's going to get to double dip on all their mana, and that's not great for you. Now, admittedly, in most cases, the way we're seeing right now, there's not going to be that many single color decks. And if that's the case, then this actually gets a lot more value because your opponents don't often get to get that much mana off of it because they're not going to have a ton of basics. Most of the time when you play this, though, you're setting up your big turn or the second to last turn. So that way you don't have to worry about any advantage your opponent can get with it. But if you play it correctly, the upside for this is really high. Requiting Hex. Yes, it's an uncommon that made the list, but I think it actually performed as well as people anticipated. For 1 black mana, you can get rid of anything that costs 2 or less. But if you blight something of yours, you get to gain 2 life. This is good in just a lot of different situations. It's an instant speed spell, so one of the things that's also good is when your opponent's going to kill one of your creatures, you can go ahead and destroy one of theirs and go ahead and gain 2 life as your creature's on the way out. There's just lots of little fun stuff you can do with this that makes it worth playing. Now, it's not the best spot removal card, but it's good if you're worried about getting rid of early elves and badger mole cubs, or really any of the theme stuff from Lorwyn Eclipsed where you're talking about Kitkin or fairies or whatever. This takes out quite a few things. So it's a pretty interesting card, and I expect you'll see some play of this. And honestly, yes, it's an uncommon, but sometimes people worry about those, so it's not the only uncommon that made our list, though. Celestial Reunion was also really cool. Now, this was a little funky that it's an X and green. It is a sorcery speed spell, and you have to choose a creature type from 2 things you behold, and then you can go search for something of that type and put it directly onto the battlefield. And that's actually really cool, considering this allows you to be a little bit toolboxy with your creature-themed decks, right? There's going to be quite a few even just out of this set, like we mentioned, the elves and the Kithkin and whatnot. But this is pretty cool. Like, in our elf deck, you want to play 1 copy of High Perfect Morcant. This can let you go search for it. Honestly, if you want to play non-elf decks and you want to play something with, like, Beast, maybe, this is something to do. Raccoons actually would love this because there's a few random things you want to go get sometimes to just get rid of an artifact or an enchantment or something like that. Like, this is going to find its way into more decks than I think people are giving it credit for. Also, there's a lot of themed commander decks. This could actually be pretty sweet for those as well. So there's a lot of good uses for this card, and if you wanted to pick it up in paper, I've seen this as low as $2 in a lot of places, averaging about $3. So very, very good right now to get this while it's at probably close to its low point. Vibrance was also very good over this past few days, and for good reason. This is one of the, I guess, incarnations is what we're calling them, that actually does a lot for a lot of different decks. Like, if you just wanted to pay 2 mana to search for a land and pay 2 life or gain 2 life, that's great. And the thing to remember about this is on the land search, it's go search for any land, not a basic land. So this is going to find its way into even more decks than people think right now. So if you're playing a deck that has like Secret Tunnel, because you're playing a theme deck and you want to make your creatures unblockable, this can help you go find it, right? Stuff like that, I think, is where this is going to end up shining, especially those lands that you don't necessarily want to play 2 or 3 copies of. You just want to play 1 of, this can help you go find it. Or if you just want to smooth out your colors and go find certain lands, obviously this does that as well. But the damage side for 2 red is also very good on Vibrance, right? You just get to deal 3 damage to target anything. And that's pretty cool because so many of the cards we see right now are like deal 3 to an opponent, deal 3 to a creature, or creature or planeswalker. This actually just says any target, which I think makes this very playable in a lot of decks because it can be a removal card, it can be a land search card if any deck needs either of those things. And then the late game upside is that you get a 4/4 with both those abilities. Kind of hard to complain about this card as it just slides right into a lot of different decks. Mutable Explorer. This is 2 and a green for a 1/1 changeling that manages to put a Mutavault token onto the battlefield. The Mutavault token can, for 1, become a 2/2 creature with all creature types. Now, the interesting thing here is this card has actually been performing very well, but I don't think we've figured out the best things to do with it yet. So I think you can feel safe crafting this one, even though we don't know the best thing to do with it. Mostly because I think it just fits a lot of decks, right? 3 mana get you a 1/1 and a land, which is also a pseudo creature. Now, if you have anything that cares about creature types, obviously this is going to get a big boost there, and you can consider that as well if you're trying to get a discount on your Sliver Hive pool or something, right? But it is just good for ramping up, and there's some decks that just want that. If you're playing like Felidar Retreat and things like that, great. And that land happens to also be a creature, so you could activate it later, put counters on it, do all that good stuff. So lots of cool decks where I think this is going to find a home, and I think people weren't sure if it was going to be as good as advertised, but I think it is. And I don't think if you're buying this in paper, it's going to be crazy expensive at any point. The high point for this card is probably only around $4. So very affordable if you want to pick this up. But yeah, I think if you're going to play this online on Arena, I think this is a totally reasonable card. Well, I told you there was more than one uncommon on the list, and Noggle Robber ended up making the list here. For 3 mana, you get a 3/3. When it enters or dies, you get to make a treasure token. Now, I think this is one we don't know the best places to put it, but if you are looking for something to help you ramp in some decks, or you care about artifacts entering the battlefield, or treasure in particular, or you just want a quality 3/3 body to fill out your curve that gives you some upside, Noggle Robber's your card. It's an uncommon, so you're not going to burn too many wild cards. It's a good filler card. It just does a lot. I mean, a 3/3 body for 3 that basically gives you a mana back, if not 2, is pretty damn good. It's hard to argue against this card. And again, it found its way into a couple of different lists and kind of overperformed. As a matter of fact, I wanted to say when we played the Smuggler Surprise deck with the Vivid stuff, this is one of the cards we talked about maybe having 4 copies of. It was that good. So yeah, this one gets a thumbs up. I think it was overlooked. Credit to Dev, because I think he brought this up in our underrated cards video. Maybe I'll remember to link that so you could watch that if you haven't. But yeah, really good card, uncommon. Check it out if you haven't. And we couldn't only have one incarnation on the list because they're all kind of ridiculous, but this one's actually really good too in Wistfulness. The 2 green side lets you exile an artifact or an enchantment. Again, there's a lot of decks that just want stuff to deal with artifacts and enchantments, but they don't necessarily want to give up having creatures. This helps solve that problem, but also the blue side is the main reason so many decks were playing this, because you draw 2 and discard 1. Even at sorcery speed, paying 2 mana to draw 2, discard 1, fantastic. Right? Honestly, I'm kind of surprised it wasn't just draw 1, discard 1, but hey, it is what it is. This card, super cool. Now, later in the game, it is a 6/5, which is a sizable body. And it's not like both sides are always good, but the blue side will always be useful, right? Draw and discard, you're rarely ever going to not want to do that when it's 2 to discard 1. Now, the green side, you might not always have targets, so it has a little bit of lesser value, but this found its way into just various mono blue decks, found its way into graveyard or reanimator decks that were wanting to draw and fill up their graveyard. Like, there's just a lot of quirky spots this card's going to show up. So yeah, if you're thinking about playing it, go ahead and craft it. This is totally safe. So yeah, other caveat, obviously we can't talk about every single card that's performing well, and that would just be too long of a video. So no need to just like, but you didn't mention this card, you didn't mention this card. Everybody does that every single time. We can't talk about every card, y'all, or else this would be like an hour-and-a-half video. But there's a lot of good cards in Lorwyn, so this is by no means a complete list. These are just some of the ones that people were curious about if they were going to be as good as advertised, and honestly, these have been played in a lot of different decks. So definitely, I think you could craft these without having too many issues, or go pick these up if you want to play them in paper. They're all very strong cards. But yeah, y'all let me know in the comments you like this video or not. Be sure to check out our other video where we talk about cards you shouldn't craft as well. Hopefully it'll get linked here or not, or whatever. These videos should be up at the same time. But otherwise, that's all I have you for now. We'll see you next time.